Welcome, everyone, to Beyond Federal Data, Finding Alternative and Archived Information Sources. My name is Shoshana Frank. My pronouns are she, her. I am the Student Engagement Librarian here at Aurora University and Phillips Library, and I'm very pleased that you could all join me today. Throughout our session today, we are going to talk about a number of different things, beginning with why alternatives are needed for U.S. federal data. We'll discuss briefly how to find archived federal data, and then we'll look over alternative data sources, including from international bodies, foreign governments, and state and local agencies. I will be sharing lots of websites and resources throughout the presentation today, all of which will be sent out at the end of the session along with the recording. So you should, of course, take notes if you want to, but no, I will be sending it all out afterwards because it is a lot of information. So why are we talking about this issue of federal government data and what's going on with it? There's a lot of different reasons, but you'll see as we go throughout that I will have pictures at the beginning of different sections with different archives from around the world. This one photographed is storage conditions from the Office of Indian Affairs back in 1935. And it gives you an idea of some of the archival elements that are here within the United States. So why we need to talk about this and why are we discussing alternatives to federal government data? It's because the US government holds an invaluable amount of data, information, and research about international, national levels with climate, environment, healthcare. The list goes on and on. Over the last a little bit more than a year, since January of 2025, there have been a number of executive orders that have created modifications and removals of federal data sets and changed some of the published information that we have available. This can happen anytime there's newly elected federal administrations and changes to the narrative or what they are looking to have shared to the general public. Although with these changes, we do lose access to both historical and current data. And there's also been a significant reduction of funding for research. So we're not getting new data or new information. And some of the data sets that are still available on federal websites are incomplete. As I have mentioned, much of the data that has been removed is archived from various nonprofit organizations. There are also international organizations and state and local governments that have similar data, although not in the same scope or in the same way as what the federal government had. A quote from Kathy Richard, who is a technologist at Open Environmental Data Project, shared, "It's our library, it's our history. The data, the federal government data, is funded by tax dollars. So we don't want all of that knowledge to be lost when we can keep it, store it, and potentially do something with it to continue to learn from it." Even after we go through all of these resources and alternatives, when you're in doubt, if you're looking for data and it isn't there, like if you receive this type of a page not found record from the CDC or other federal website, please talk to a librarian or a research expert in your field because we can help you find either the archive data from that location or a strong alternative that you can use for your academic assignments. So let's dive into where we can find federal archive data. The next few slides are going to walk through resources that can help you find those archived sources of some of the federal data that's been removed. Something of note is that once at one point, all of the data was housed in a single location, and now it is spread across many different sites and in many different formats. Some formats are more user-friendly than others. I am going to be highlighting those archives that are still pretty user-friendly and can be helpful for your research and your academic assignments. Unfortunately, much of the archived information is not super usable for the general public or more general research like what we do here at Aurora University. So some of the formats are a bit more difficult to navigate. So I'm not going to go in-depth into those. Pictured, we have an image from the California State Mining Bureau of their archival library talking about geological surveys and maps from the 1800s or so when they were using that information for mining. So first, one of the largest organizations that is working on archiving federal data is the Data Rescue Project. It serves as a clearinghouse for preserving at-risk public information. Back in January 2025, this organization began as a simple Google Sheet and has very much evolved and changed into a large crowdsourced tool that catalogs and coordinates data preservation efforts across many different institutions and organizations. The Data Rescue Project is working to centralize all of these different efforts and provide a more user-friendly gateway to over 1,000 preserved data sets. They are working to kind of integrate multiple different data rescue initiatives from DataLumos and others that we're going to talk about more. And in an effort to try and eliminate the need to search across many different disparate sources and trying to make that critical data that's useful for research more accessible. As you'll see, the Data Rescue Project has that clearinghouse for many other organizations, from the Policy Map, Census Reporter, the American College of Obstetrician and Gynecologists, excuse me. They also have information about economic indicators from the National Policy Institute to the Alice Economic Viability Dashboard. They do have a lot about public health, of looking at county health records as well as city health departments. And they also have links to a number of library guides focused on data rescue. One good thing to keep in mind is librarians across the country have been working tirelessly to save and provide access to as much of this important federal data as we can. So here are some other institutions that have saved and have information and resources. We also have a number that we've put together here at Aurora University for you, which you'll get into more in the following slides. As I mentioned, DataLumos is an ICPSR archive, and they provide holding for valuable data, government data resources. They have long been a crowdsourced repository for safekeeping and disseminating U.S. government and other social science data. They do accept data sets from public resources, from the community, and recommendations from the public of what data should be saved and added to their repository. Our example, we're going to be taking a look at some of the data that was saved from FEMA. So they have a catalog that you can search looking for specific data sets. Here I looked for FEMA. I clicked into one of the results that shows zip files of the data sets that were saved and are in there. And they have a lot of different areas of census tracts and different tribal communities and more. These zip files do require a login to sign in to download them, which is free that you can set up. But then once you have those zip files, you'll get the full data sets that you can use for your research. Also in each record, there gives you more information and more details and specifics about the project and more information about why that data was collected. So this will give you an idea of why this survey was saved, what the FEMA National Risk Index is, and kind of some of the uses that it could be is valuable for your assignments or for your research. Next, we have the Public Environmental Data Partners. They are committed to preserving and providing public access specifically to federal environmental data. They're also a coalition of volunteers that are focused on environmental justice and policy organizations. They're researchers that are across universities, archivists, librarians, and students who really rely on these federal data sets and tools to support their research. So they are saving a lot of information. They also have a lot of data that they're explaining and kind of sharing more insight into it. They also have a list of some of the different federal tools that they have saved and prioritized. We specifically are going to look at the climate and economic justice screening tool, which is something that is very useful and is a very usable website and mapping system that can be used for your research and your assignments here at the university. But I do want to highlight they have saved an incredible amount of archived information, and there's so much more than what we have time to dive into. So the Environmental Justice Screening and Mapping tool is a tool that shows environmental justice priorities really put into practice. And it was first developed in 2010 and was available to the public since 2015. The EPA uses this or used this to kind of help with responsibilities and priorities around protection of public health and the environment. And it uses a lot of different data from environmental and demographic indicators from maps and reports. This is a really user-friendly tool. You can see on the left side, there are different layers and different menu options that you can choose, and it will highlight different elements on the map. Right now, we're looking at the city of Aurora for critical service gaps regarding housing burden. And you can see with the color coding of the map that there is a significant burden within this service gap that the city of Aurora has. And this is definitely something that can be really useful for a wide variety of assignments. They have indicators such as socioeconomic indicators, supplemental, climate change, health disparities, the list goes on, and all of it is very easy to use. And this covers the entire United States. We just focused in on Aurora. Next, we have the Internet Archive, also known as the Wayback Machine. This is a tool that has been created for many, many, many years and is in essence a digital library of the internet. It hosts older versions of websites as captured by the Internet Archive's web crawlers. Something to keep in mind about the Wayback Machine is not every website has been captured, and some websites that are cataloged within the Internet Archive may not have been captured many times or across many different time periods. It may only be one specific time and one specific moment. Some of it often is just the single page of the website. It's not necessarily the links that you're able to click through. So there's varying levels of accessibility and archival layers that have been added to the Internet Archive. For our example, we're going to take a look at the CIA Factbook, which is unfortunately no longer available from the federal government, but it is archived here in the Wayback Machine. Generally, the Wayback Machine works best if you have a specific URL to use. So if there's a specific site that you have bookmarked, whether it's with the CDC or here with the CIA World Factbook, it makes it easier to search and find what you're looking for. Once you search that URL, you'll see a page come up showing how many times between a time period that site has been saved. So the World Factbook was saved over 28,000 times between January of 2017 and April of 2026. On the calendar that you can see pictured on the screen, the larger the dots are, the more captures that they had of the website on that day. So we are going to take a look at January 2nd, the screen capture that happened at 12:14 a.m. When we click on it, it opens the CIA World Factbook. It does look like the traditional website. All of the links are there. It does take a little bit longer than normal to load, so you just kind of have to be a little bit patient. But this is a very usable version of the website. So as we look through it, we can click through into information about different countries. This pictured is all about Canada and their economy. It shows a lot of their economic overview, their GDPs, more about individuals, monetary amounts and kind of the economic structure of the country. You can see on the left side, there's a huge menu of information about Canada as a country. And what's amazing about the World Factbook is they have all this information about pretty much every single country in the world. So there are hundreds of countries listed here. They also have a number of maps and other details that look at all kinds of data from population distributions to political ramifications to terrain and other elements. And pretty much all of this has been archived within the Wayback Machine and is very usable for you. One thing to keep in mind, though, is the Internet Archive isn't super easy to navigate just by searching keywords. As I mentioned, it really works best if you have a specific URL that you're looking for. Okay, moving towards alternative data sources. First, we're going to look at international bodies. When we are thinking about international organizations and the data that they have available to the general public, the big thing to keep in mind is that foreign governments are going to have information specific to their populations, and international organizations are going to have information specific to their focus or their scope. But much of it is very transferable to the United States, especially when you think about the populations that they're looking at and the scope of what the organization is overseeing or what they're interested in. Pictured, we have shelves in the archives of the ICRC, the International Committee of the Red Cross, and these are all records from the pre-1914 work of the ICRC. It's all nice and neatly organized for researchers, which is lovely. So first up for international bodies is the World Health Organization. The WHO has an unbelievable amount of data about the world's population and health. They collect data and they also conduct research in the field. So even though they're focused on the entire world, they are probably the closest organization similar to what the CDC was providing to the United States, where they look at overall healthcare, different disease vaccines. They also look at specific country level health statistics and information, and it is all publicly available data, and it is all up to date of current. Pictured here, we can see their global report about the World Health Statistics from 2025, all of which is available online. The other great thing about the World Health Organization is they have, as I mentioned, a huge amount of data, all of which is available. So all of the data from the World Health Organization is available as the full data sets that you can download. It also has a lot of great graphs and easy to understand charts, and a lot of things that are very usable for your research. So pictured here, we have information about the United States as our healthcare, our health coverage, and how that can impact individuals with their overall life expectancy and projected health emergencies. Next, we have UNICEF, which is the United Nations Child's Fund. It is an agency of the United Nations, and the focus of UNICEF is to provide humanitarian and developmental aid to children worldwide. They work in over 190 countries, and they work to protect healthcare, safety, and they also do a lot of educational efforts. And they have a huge data team. The UNICEF's data team is the global central location for the collection of information and data on children. And they also do a lot of analysis and communication of their statistically relevant information for the general public to understand. As you can see pictured with their menu by the data by topic, there are tons of different subject areas and an incredible amount of data that they are collecting on the world's population, and that you can utilize. An amazing thing about UNICEF is, like other that I mentioned within the United Nations and other international agencies, they have really easy to understand charts and maps and data. Pictured is specifically about vaccinations for children within specific countries, and it does go all the way up to date with the information there. And you can choose by region, by age range. There's lots of different options that you can easily navigate on UNICEF's data portals. I am only highlighting one of the many, many sub-agencies within the United Nations, but there are so many other sub-agencies that you can look at and use their research for your academic assignments. Next is the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control. The ECDC is a public health agency that focuses on the entire European Union and has been operational since 2005. The European Center for Disease Prevention and Control works to protect over 500 million people throughout Europe from infectious diseases that are often caused by parasites or germs like virus, bacteria, etc. And the ECDC collects, analyzes, and shares data on a huge range of topics and diseases from COVID-19, HIV/AIDS, measles, tuberculosis, vaccination rates, and so much more. As you can see, the ECDC does collect data, and all of it's made available to the public. This is showing some of their menu options that they have, talking about the vaccines, their polio dashboard, and more. You can also click through to see their different mapping with the graphs and charts. As I mentioned, many have easily available for you to use. This specific image that you're seeing is in regards to HIV infection and AIDS, specifically confirmed cases within a standardized age range in 2016. And you can see Europe pictured there in the colorful countries that are highlighted, and it gives you an idea of kind of the different range of populations. They give you information in numbers and charts and in graphs to help you with your specific research needs and the data that you're looking for. And this is just one example of a huge range of what they're collecting. Next is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. This is an international organization that works to build better policies for better lives. The United States is one of the founding member countries that signed onto the treaty in 1960. Today, there are over 38 member countries. The OECD is very much focused on economic strength and economic indicators for the United States as well as other countries. Here you have pictured some of the economic indicators and population projections for the United States specifically, but there is all of this detail and information about all 38 member countries. And this can be very helpful for your research, especially if you're looking at kind of more the population and economic challenges that may be needed for your academic assignments. You can see they have, again, really easy to understand charts and dashboards. This is talking about their overall gender gaps, but with economic indicators by country. And so you can see all the different countries that they're monitoring and kind of where their gender gaps lie between men and women and across the world. Moving on to foreign governments, specifically, we're going to be talking about Canada because we do share a border and a continent with Canada. We have a lot of similar demographics, and much of our information that we collect and that Canada collects and researches is very transferable between Canada and the United States. Something to do keep in mind as Canada has a much smaller population than the United States. So you do kind of want to take what they have and kind of expand it or extrapolate it larger. Pictured, we have shelves, again, from the ICRC. These are files tracing the people missing from Cambodia. And these are, again, archives located in Geneva, Switzerland, that are available for researchers. So Canada has a lot of data and information that they share with the general public, including us here in the United States. One that I want to highlight is specifically their scientific data that they are collecting. They do a lot of research and science collaboration across Canada, all sponsored by the Canadian government. In there, they talk a lot about different areas and different aspects of science, all of which is very easy to navigate. So you can see they have different scientific repositories as well as different labs and data sets. They do also a lot of research around safety and specifically things about their Indigenous population, as well as their environment and other climate factors. Within those data sets, they have very easy to navigate data sets and portals. This that I'm showing you is just a snippet of what they have, looking at like their space agency, the agriculture and food, and some of the research and data that they have available. There's also even more hubs and portals related to climate change, infrastructure, different health areas, population, transportation. You can see the list goes on and on and on. There's a lot of information that's available for use and is very relevant to here in the United States as well. The Public Health Agency of Canada is equivalent to the CDC. As I mentioned, Canada does have a smaller population, but since we have similar demographics, this can be very, very relevant. And I'm going to touch on just a little tiny bit, but they have so much information that is collected and is made publicly available. You can see many different data sets and areas that they're looking at within healthcare, from health statistics to different research areas, talking about alcohol, tobacco, drug use, COVID-19, other vaccines, just like the European Center for Disease Control. I clicked into determinants of health. We are looking at kind of inequalities in alcohol consumption in Canada. And you can see they have this fantastic infographic, really easily explaining the information and research that they have collected on this specific topic, giving you an idea of ways that you can use it within your research and for your academic assignments. Now we're going to dive into state and local agencies and some of the alternative ways that you can use the data that is at a much smaller local level for your research purposes. When you are using information from state and local agencies, they are collecting a lot of the information that we are looking for, but they're doing it on a much smaller scale than their federal counterparts. And they also aren't conducting as much pure research as the federal government has done in the past. So the information is going to be a little bit different and a smaller scope, but definitely still useful and relevant, especially when you're looking at population and other more community-based research needs. Pictured, we have the City of Toronto's archives that you can see are all neatly organized and ready for research and understanding. So first, we have the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. The Illinois EPA has the focus of safeguarding environmental quality, consistency, really focused on the social and economic needs of the state of Illinois here to help protect health, welfare, property, and the quality of life in our state. What's great about the Illinois EPA is they, again, have really easy to understand charts and graphs, and they have it nicely broken up by land, water, air, safety, and sustainability for overall economic needs and environmental needs and understanding. On the left side of the image pictured, you can see I chose just kind of the overview of water quality, but they have so many different subcategories from microplastics to stormwater permits, surface water, groundwater, drinking water, the list goes on. They also have similar information about land. So under the Bureau of Land, we have pictured information about hazardous waste and electronic waste, but there are more details about landfills, materials management, electronics recycling, kind of all the different aspects of land and the physical materials that we're putting in our land. To get an idea of ways that you can use that information. Then we have the Illinois Department of Public Health. This is going to have similar information to what the federal CDC has, but again, they're not going to be as much focused on research, much more focused on data collection for the population just of Illinois, nothing beyond that. But they do have a great deal of information regarding health, vaccines, births and death rates, diseases, other health concerns. As you can see, here are some of the popular links that are highlighted. We also have great data sets that you can look into. This one picture that I pulled is all about tick-borne diseases and how those have been reported to the state of Illinois over a 10-year span. You can see the different diseases that they're tracking, things that all come from ticks. What's also great about this is you can download the full data set into a CSV file to be able to use it and kind of change it however you would like. But the web version is also really easy to use and kind of manipulate to see different elements of the data. Going a little closer to home, we can go down from state level to county level resources. We're looking here at the Kane County Department of Environmental and Water Resources. The Kane County has a lot of different information, but they do really do a lot about stormwater management. And since we're in Kane County, this is a great example to highlight their really interactive stormwater management map. It is a mapping system that you can use to understand how water, especially stormwater, goes from one location in King County to the rivers or other places, how it moves throughout the county. I specifically was using the map to go from Aurora University, that is that box in blue, kind of towards the left side, and traced after a big storm, where does our stormwater go from our campus and how does it get to the river? And that path is that big orange line that's bold in the middle, and then that kind of light blue line on the right side of the screen on an angle is the river, and that's where the water is going to. Also on this map, you can see a lot of the different sewer lines and other like water retention locations throughout the county. You can do active stormwater. You can look at the watershed basin. There are a lot of different layers and functionality to this map that you can utilize. And it's really, really useful when you're looking for information about local waterways, stormwater management, and overall environmental work happening at the county level. I highlighted Kane County, but you can find out information about really any county in our state or in other states and how they are managing their water resources. Also at a county level, our health departments. I am highlighting the DuPage County Health Department because they collect a lot of information about environmental health, and they have a lot of publicly available data and reports that you can easily access. DuPage County, you can see on their menu that's pictured all the different populations, the records that they're looking at, the special reports. If we clicked through into cases about sexually transmitted illnesses, this is showing you by district throughout the county what the reported cases are. It kind of gives you an idea over a 17-year period of what cases have increased or not, gives you gender breakdown, as well as ethnicity and race differentiations. And this infographic, again, is super helpful when you're thinking about healthcare needs at the county-wide level, and you can kind of extrapolate this broader to broader populations as well. A really amazing resource that we have is the City of Aurora's Open Data Portal. The City of Aurora has worked really, really hard to be transparent with what they're using their tax money for, and they have a really, really user-friendly open data portal that they have created. You can see you can download specific data sets. They have easy to follow instructions for how to do that. They also have the opportunity to explore different information on the various departments of the City of Aurora. I clicked into the fire department to show us an example of some of the data that they're collecting and making publicly available. This is specifically about false alarm calls in the past 36 months, and it gives you kind of that breakdown of intention, malfunction, other. You can change the time periods, you can change the topic that you're looking at, the department, but it gives you a really, really good idea of kind of the community demographics and the work that's going on in the community, whether it is about policing, fire department, their Department of Public Works, the environment, all kinds of different things. And as you can see, it's very easy to use and it's very visually engaging. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, Shoshana, you told me so much information. I'm never going to remember this all, but You don't have to worry about it because librarians are here to help. We know that there is a lot going on and a lot of things changing at the federal government data level of what's available to the public, what is easy to find on their websites or not, as well as what's being archived and the usability of the different archival locations. And then also navigating applicability of international bodies, the other foreign governments, as well as state and local resources. And so this is our librarian team that are here, friendly, ready to help you. We also have a lot of librarian-created resources. I'm going to highlight 4 specifically that are really focused on kind of replacing and supplementing a lot of that federal government data that is no longer available. We have databases, or excuse me, resources created looking at economics, looking at kind of social work and communities, especially around census information, that community and local data. We also have information about nursing, those healthcare organizations for different worldwide health, as well as here in the United States. And then also, I didn't get into this as much because it's a little bit more challenging to navigate, but the changes to the Bureau of Labor Statistics as well as career options that you can definitely use. The biggest thing to keep in mind is that this is a very quickly changing landscape. More data is being removed regularly, and so some things that may be available on that you've bookmarked or available on a library created resource may not be available in the future. So we do have even more librarian created guides. We have over 100 of them. Those are just a couple examples that I have pictured. And so we're definitely doing our best to keep up with these changes, but sometimes things happen faster than we can react to. All this to say, as I said at the beginning, when in doubt, if you're looking for data and it isn't there, talk with a librarian. We can help you find it, whether it's in an archived location or it's an alternative source of data that we're looking for, or we can help you connect with a expert in your field who can help you find that research as well. So to keep up to date with the library, you can follow us on social media or subscribe to our website. You can scan that QR code for more details about the library, or you can follow that URL listed on the screen for more research help. And that research help is going to have links for personal as well as asynchronous assistance. Now I'm going to turn off the recording and have some time for questions.